Hello, in this video you're going to learn how to create top-down movement inside of Unreal Engine. So we'll create a 2D character that can move up, down, towards the left and towards the right. To get started, you're going to want to make sure that you've installed the PaperZD plugin. You can find it by going to the Unreal Engine Marketplace, and this plugin makes it easier to animate 2D characters. I made a whole video on it, so make sure to check it out if you've not already. So just make sure to go install the engine and install it to the engine of Unreal Engine that you're using. So in this video, I'm using the latest version, Unreal Engine 5.1. Once you install this to your engine, go over to Edit, then go to Plugins, and then in the plugins, look for PaperZD, and just check this box. Then you'll need to restart your Unreal Engine project in order to enable the plugin. So just do that. And once you've done that, we're ready to start creating our top-down 2D game. So the first thing we're going to do is set up a top-down 2D character. And we're going to do this in a new map. So I'm just going to go to my content drawer, and in some free space, I will right click, go new folder, and just call this maps. And then I'm going to create a new map where I'm going to test out my 2D top-down character. So we go to File, then go New Level, select Basic, then go Create, then go Save. Then it'll ask us where we want to save our map. We just want to go to the map folder, and I'll just call this my top-down level. So the next thing we're going to do is set up a top-down 2D character. If we go to the content drawer and just right click, create a new folder, and just call this character. And then if you close Unreal Engine and import your 2D character into your Unreal Engine project, I'll leave a link in the description of this video of the 2D character that I'm using in this video. Once you've imported your 2D character, go back to the content drawer and select all of the images. Just right click and go Sprite Actions and apply Paper 2D texture settings. This will make all of the images clear and usable as sprites. So the first thing we're going to do is actually set up the movement for our character. So we're just going to select the character up sprite, right click and go Sprite Actions and go Extract Sprites. Then there are two ways we can actually extract sprites. We can leave it on auto, or we can leave it on grid. Auto will kind of try to automatically work out how to split up the sprites, and with grid we can customize how we want these sprites to be split up. So right now the cell width is 128 and the cell height is 32. If I change the cell width to be 32, then we can see it will split up these sprites evenly. So you can use either method. I'm just going to leave this at grid, and we can go extract, and it'll extract all those sprites. For now, just select the character up sprite, right click and go create flipbook, and just call this the move up idle. Then if we just go to our content drawer, right click and create a new folder and call this blueprints. And if we double click and open this up, then if we just right click and go blueprint class, then if we go to all classes, we want to search for a PaperZD character. So here it is, and just go select and call this the top-down character blueprint. Then if we head inside here, we just want to go to sprite and select the move up idle sprite that we just made. So it's kind of small, so what we can do is just click this anchor icon and scale it up. So I'm going to make mine 5, and this will increase it by a size of 5 in all of its axes. So right now, we're going to view our top-down game from this camera angle. So we just need to rotate our sprite so it's matching that. So if you go to select and rotate objects, and just rotate it 90 degrees in the z-axis, and then we just want to rotate it in the x-axis, so it's 90 degrees down. And then if we just select the capsule component, as you can see, it kind of doesn't really fit around our character. So just adjust its half height and radius so it kind of fits around the character. I'm just going to move my sprite up a bit. So I'm going to select and translate objects, and I'm just moving it up a bit. And then we just want to go over to add and look for a spring arm. Then with the spring arm selected, go to select and rotate objects, and just rotate it 90 degrees up. Then with the spring arm selected again, go add and add a camera. So this is how we're going to be viewing our top-down character. And just rotate the camera 90 degrees so it's facing our character. Then if we just go compile, save, and close this, let's make it so we can start the game as our top-down character. So I'm going to go over to my content drawer, find my blueprints folder, and just right click, go blueprint class, and go game mode base, and just call this top-down game mode. So here inside of the game mode base, we kind of set the default settings for how we want our game to be. If we head inside here, we just want to go to default pawn class and change this to be the top-down character. This will make it so that we start the game as the top-down character if this is our game mode. For now, if we just go compile, save, and close this, to set the game mode for a level, what we need to do is just go to Window, and then go World Settings. This will bring up the World Settings tab. Then if we go to Game Mode Override, we can select the game mode that we want this level to have. So if I just select this and select my top-down game mode, this will mean this level will have the top-down game mode. And if I just go quickly add things to the project and go Basics and select Player Start, this Player Start will be where my player starts in the game. And to test that everything is working, if we just go play, we can see that we start as this top-down character. Although right now we can't really move or do anything, so let's add some movement so we can actually control and move our player character. So I'm going to go back to my content drawer, go to the content folder, right click and create a new folder, and I'll just call this input. And if I head inside here, we're going to create some controls for our character. So the first control we're going to create is going to be movement, so our character can move around. To do this, if we just right click and go input and select input action, and just call this move underscore input action, and head inside here, and we just want to change this value type to be axis 2D. This will be a bit easier to explain later. So for now, just save this, close this, then we need to right click again and go input and select input mapping context, and just call this top down input mapping context. So here is where we're going to basically set all of the controls for our game. Head inside here and go add new action mapping, then select the move input action that we just made, and here we can now basically specify what buttons we want the player character to press in order to perform the move input action. So right now we're going to set up two simple controls. We're going to make it so the player character can move up and down. So here, if I just look for up and just select up, then if I go add another action mapping and I'm going to look for down, although for the down one, just go to modifiers and go add element and just add the negate modifier. You'll see what this does in a second. So we can use either the up or the down arrow keys to move our player character. If we go back to the top down character blueprint, we want to go over to the event graph, and event begin play, we need to make it so this character is using the controls in the top down input mapping context that we just made. To do this, we just need to right click and look for get controller. From here we can drag off and look for cast to player controller, and this will let us basically reference the player controller. And from here we just want to drag off here and look for get enhanced input local player subsystem. We want to drag off here and look for is valid. This will just check that we have a valid reference to basically the player controller, and if we do, we just want to drag off here and look for add mapping context and select the top down IMC that we just made, and this will allow our player character to have some controls. So now that we've set this up, if we just right click and look for the move input action that we just made and select it, whenever we press either the up or the down button, this trigger node is going to fire, and when this fires we want to move our player character. So if we just drag off here and look for add movement input, and then for the action value just right click and look for split structure pin, and if you remember earlier we basically made this move input action have an axis 2D. What that basically has done is it makes it so there's a value in the X and the Y. For now, if we just connect from the X value into the scale value, and for world direction put a value of 1. So when I press the up or the down button, by default it's basically going to mean this action value in the X is going to have a value of 1, and because I put 1 in the X, it's going to move my character positively in the X axis. For the down button, because we gave it the negate modifier, when I press the down button, it's going to mean my player character will move in a negative direction in the X axis. So we can just go compile, save, and test this all out. If I go play and I press the up button, my character moves up. If I press the down button, my player character moves down. So with this, my player character can move up and down. Let's make it so our character can move towards the left and the right. So if I just open up my content drawer again and open up the top-down input mapping context, if we just go and create 2 more control bindings, for this first one, make it the left, and we just want to click this arrow and add 2 modifiers. The first modifier is going to be the negate modifier. This will make it so we move in the opposite direction when we press the left button, and the second modifier is going to be the swizzle input axis value. I'll explain what this does in a second. For this key, we want it to be the right, and we also want to go add modifier and just select the swizzle input axis value. Then if we just go save and go to our top-down character, because for the right and the left button, we gave it the swizzle input axis value, it'll basically mean when we press either the left or the right button, it's going to have a value in the Y, which will go from 0 to 1. So after we move our player character up and down, we're just going to drag off here and look for add movement input, although this time connect from Y, and for the Y direction, put a value of 1, and this will make it so we can move our player character positively and negatively in the Y-axis by pressing either the left or the right button. So I can just go compile, save, and close this. And now if I go play, I should be able to move my character up, down, left, and towards the right. Nice. So the final thing we need to do is set up some animations so our player character plays the appropriate animation when they're moving in all of these directions. So to do this, go back to the content drawer and over to the character folder. And if we just select all of the character up sprites, just right click and go create flipbook and just call this move up. Then if we select the character right sprites, right click and go sprite actions, extract sprites. I will change this to be grid and this to be 32. And then I'm going to select all of these sprites, create a flipbook and call it move right. And then I will select this right sprite, create a flipbook and just call this right idle. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the left and the down sprites. So I'm just going to speed up the footage or skip past this part. Okay, so I've now created flipbooks for all of the directions that I want my player character to move in. So now that we've done this, if we just go to the content folder, right click and create another folder and just call this animations. Head inside here, then just right click and we want to go paper ZD and select animation source, and we can just call this the top down animation source. And if we head inside here, we want to go add new, select new animation sequence and just call this idle, then select multi-directional sequence and you're going to see this little grid. So here in this grid, we're basically going to specify the flipbook that we want to play when our player character is facing a particular direction. For this first grid up here, we just want to select our character's right idle sprite. So I'm just going to select that. Then for this grid here, we want to select the character's up sprite. So if we just select the move up idle sprite, then for the grid here, we want to select the character's left sprite. So if I just find the left idle sprite, then for the grid here, we want to select the character's down sprite. So I just find the character's down idle sprite. Okay, once you've done this, go add new, select new animation sequence, and call this one movement. Make it a multi-directional sequence. And for this part up here, we want this to be the right movement flipbook. So I'll just select that. For this grid here, we want it to be the up movement flipbook. So I'll just select that. For this grid here, we want it to be the left movement sequence. So I'll just select that. And for this grid here, we want it to be the down movement sequence. So I'll select that. We can just go save and close this. Next, if we just right click, we are going to create an animation blueprint which will help tell the game which flipbook we should play. So if we right click and go paper ZD, select paper ZD animation blueprint, and For the animation source, select the top-down animation source that we just made. This will let the animation blueprint know what flipbooks we want to use in it. And we can just call this the top-down animation blueprint. If I head inside here, we want to go to event on int. So this will basically fire as soon as our game starts. And what we're going to do is just right click and look for get owning actor. So this will allow us to basically reference whatever is using this animation blueprint. We're going to make our top-down character use this animation blueprint. So if we just drag off this return value, look for cast to top-down character blueprint, and then right-click here and promote it to a variable as we're going to reference it later. Then if we go over to the animation graph, we want to drag in our top-down character and just drag off here and look for get velocity. So this will allow us to see the speed of our character, and we just want to drag off this return value and look for vector length. And if this vector length is ever greater than 0, that basically means my player character is moving, so we'll play the moving flipbook. So if we just right click and look for blend by ball and connect this into the value, then just right click and look for the movement that we created inside of the animation source. So here it is. I spelt mine weirdly, movement, and connect that into true. So if our player character's velocity is greater than 0, we'll play the movement animation. If this is false, then we'll play the idle animation. So I'll right click and look for idle. Okay, I think I spelled that weirdly as well. Yep. So idle. So here I'll look for the idle and connect that to false, and from animation into here. Then if we go compile, go back to the top-down character, go to the viewport and select the animation component, and here under anim instance class, select the top-down animation blueprint that we just made, and this will make it so this character will use that animation blueprint. We can go compile, save, and close this. And if I go play, we can see my player character is playing the idle animation. If I move, then my player character will start playing their movement animations. There's just one more thing we need to do, and that's to make it so our player character will be in the correct direction when they're moving in a particular direction. So to set that up, if we go over to our blueprint folder and open up the top-down character, go to the event graph, and what we want to do is create a new variable and call it direction. And for the variable type, we want to look for vector 2D and just select it, then drag it in here and look for set direction. Right click on this and split the structure pin, connect from here into here, and connect from the X into here and from the Y into here. Then if we compile and save this and go back to the top-down animation blueprint, we just want to right click and look for set direction. So sorry, set directionality, and this will kind of allow us to set the direction that our character should be facing. Connect from here into here and from here into here. And to get the input, we just want to drag in the top-down character, get it, then get the direction variable that we just made and connect it into input. Then if we go compile, save, and close this, if I go play, we'll have a top-down character. If I move up, it'll play the up animation. If I move down, it'll play the down animation. If I press the left button, it'll play the left animation, and so on. There's one more thing we can do to make this look a bit cooler. So for 2D games in Unreal Engine, you can kind of have a perspective camera. This allows you to kind of see 3D things, but you can also have an orthographic camera, and this will make everything look 2D. So the auto width here will basically tell you how close the camera is going to be. So I'm going to make this something like 1300. Then if I go compile, save, and close this, if I go play, we can see we have a top-down character. If I was to make the auto width something like 2000, then it's going to be even more zoomed out. So you can see. And if I just go back and I change this to be perspective, this will kind of allow 3D objects to be there. We can change how close it is with the spring arm. So I'll make this something like 500, then the spring arm will be a lot further away. And I'm also going to move my player start down a bit because it seems my player character falls a bit. Okay, so with that we have created a top-down character that can move inside of Unreal Engine. That's all for this tutorial. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. And if you want to learn how to create other 2D games, such as a fighting game and a platformer game inside of Unreal Engine, make sure to check out my website. I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video. Bye!